How's your day so far, mate?
Doing good, man. Just, going along with everything. Music, meetings, and babies.
I
So
was gonna say, like, that's the first thing I wanted to do was just say congratulations because
thank
you're a
you.
new dad,
Yep.
first
Yeah, he's
time
right over
dad.
here.
Oh yeah,
So just
mixing work and home life, right?
yeah, exactly, man. That's the new grind is making music somewhat quietly and taking care of a little one. So it's all been awesome so far and
Did you make
absolutely in
any?
love with it.
You made any tunes for him yet?
Nothing for him yet. Still just the standard bangers and everything else. Just kind of finishing up a lot of the stuff that I had pre him. But well, I'm sure there'll be some baby inspiration soon.
Yeah. So you're on the road quite a bit at the moment.
Yeah.
How does that work with having a newborn?
I mean, when I'm home, I spend as much time helping out and doing what I can. Just overall letting my wife get sleep and whatnot. And when I'm gone, she tends to. So far, she's been able to manage. It's only been a weekend where I was gone, and this will be the first weekend where it's just her and the baby. So hopefully she'll have some company over and whatnot to help out, and
Yeah.
hopefully get some sleep. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think your waking hours are gonna start changing a little bit, maybe.
yeah, everything's changed, man. It's all different now. So, but trying to still enjoy every moment of it and still sleep in between.
Yeah. So I think me and you probably have a lot in common musically because like I've been a metalhead since like I was at school, but
Yeah.
I also toured the world as a DJ.
Oh, sick. Okay.
Like
I was gonna say I dig the Let Live shirt. That's dope.
15 years ago. Well, yeah, well, I thought I'd wear this because I know you've had some collaboration with the man like Jason,
Yeah.
who's now in Fever 333, of course, but
Right.
he was in Let Live before, and I was a massive Let Live fan.
I was a huge Let Live fan. I used to crowd surf to their shows and shit in SoCal, and I have a tee I cut the sleeves off of that I've had for like 8 years or some shit. So
Yeah.
they were a huge inspiration for me.
Obviously, a big thing with you is the way that you mix genres. I want to go back and learn about where you first started listening to metal and where you first got introduced to electronic music. Like, when did that all start for you?
Yeah, I mean, electronic music kind of came from the early YouTube days where you'd have a lot of like, people doing vlogs or doing, this is back when you could just put a song in a YouTube video and, WMG didn't flag you for it or anything like that. So, that was kind of like my big introduction was 2009, 2010. YouTube took off and like kind of started to hear a little bit more electronic music getting thrown in stuff. You'd hear Rusko and you'd hear, Knife Party and Skrillex and stuff. That was like, a little bit early on. And kind of from there, like just little by little, friends, people like that, just kind of mentioning certain artists or stuff, Avicii, things like that like started to pop up, Swedish House Mafia. And so it was kind of like a mix of bass music or early on bass music and house and progressive and big roomy kind of stuff, electro, Wolfgang Gardner, things like that. And from that, kind of just started diving into different blogs and things like that I could find. At the time it was like This Song Slaps was doing Filthy Fridays, and like they would sort of like create a compilation of like whatever was being released on SoundCloud or wherever. And that was kind of where the love came from. It's just like the internet, where most people had it come from. So along with that, the metal side of things was that was like definitely more of a slow burn, where I started playing guitar and I liked kind of like punk stuff or like, lighter punk like Green Day and, American Idiot had kind of just come out in 2004, 2005. And that was like my first introduction to like sort of like heavier distorted guitars and things like that. And after Green Day, it was like AC/DC. My dad showed me a lot of classic rock, Van Halen, Scorpions, things like that. And slowly that kind of built up a tolerance for metal. I wasn't like super into it right away, but that turned into Avenged Sevenfold, Bullet for My Valentine, Atreyu, and then Pantera and Metallica and things like that. So like it was kind of just always finding different subgenres within it that evolved kind of every couple of years or something, I'd say.
Yeah, and you've obviously gravitated to like a heavier version of electronic music.
Right.
So around that time when you decided to kind of start mixing these genres together, were there other people doing it that you were paying attention to, or you just wanted You wanted
Yeah,
to,
it definitely wasn't. It was a moment of me kind of being like, well, I want to do something that's like, what is it that I wish was in the world that I wasn't hearing? And like, obviously there were bands, Icy Stars, The Browning, Enter Shikari. Like there were some bands that were doing a lot of electronic stuff or adding dubstep, and you'd hear Devil Wears Prada, things like that. Like there were bands that were definitely adding it in, but it wasn't like there wasn't a DJ that was creating, compositions or whatever songs that embodied that, and it was them just doing their own thing and DJing it. Really, it had like Bloody Beetroots, and there were some artists, but it wasn't really to like the caliber of like dubstep that I maybe was looking for. And so it's kind of more of like what I wanted to hear in the world a little bit, and was like searching for. And I thought, well, if no one's doing it, then I might as well try and see what happens with it. So at least somebody that was screaming and playing guitar and things like that. So that was like 2014, 2015. I really started to do that a little more heavy. Yeah, I mean, from there, obviously discovered more artists that were kind of trying to do it and had done it in the past. Excision had definitely added like some guitars in, but it wasn't like the lane that he necessarily was like carving 100%. And so, there wasn't really anything else. I don't think. No.
there's people like Skrillex who obviously came from like a post-hardcore band with from first
Right.
to last, but the stuff that he's playing when he's DJing is not incorporating instruments, even though some of it's
Right.
heavy. So
Right.
do you remember the first time you actually took a guitar out on stage when you were DJing?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was the first show, like, from the moment I started Sullivan King, I was like, listen, if I'm going to do this, like, I want to make sure that I'm incorporating, my roots, as far as like, I wasn't singing at the time. I didn't scream or sing until like 2016, 2017. So the first shows were just me playing guitar, and didn't really get on the mic or anything. And yeah, so I mean, it was from the very first show and first time stepping on stage that I had a guitar.
So obviously now everybody knows what to expect, but back then, how did it go down?
I mean, back then it was definitely a completely different setup, and half the time it didn't work and sounded like shit. And I was having to kind of like manually control it from stage and mix it. Couldn't afford a sound engineer or anything, so didn't trust the sound guy in front of house and things like that. So that was definitely plenty of hiccups, but the crowd loved it. It was something different, and it was exciting in the era of 2014 when it was trap and sort of like bass house was kind of starting to get its shine, and dubstep was kind of almost on the way out. It was definitely something different that people were excited over.
And it feels like it's been a fairly consistent climb for you over the years.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like it's been a steady climb, or can you pick out moments in your career where things kind of took a jump?
There were definitely a lot of moments where there were, everything always consistently grew, and there was always like a gaining of a fan base, and there was always people being introduced to the music. I don't think there was ever like a point where it was like, oh shit, no one cares anymore. Like, I didn't really have that feeling, which is good. Hopefully we don't have to, but there were definitely quite a few. The first Lost Land sort of like becoming a staple name there has been incredible for my career. Having gone on tour with Excision, things like that were definitely big. Having music kind of start to get recognized by larger names, DJ Snake and Chainsmokers, and that was like a bigger sort of like acknowledgement and validation of the scene. Was 2017 had a couple songs come out that were heavily supported. Going on tour for the first time with Icy Stars in 2017, like once I really started to get on the road, that was the real like, okay, this is where I belong, is like being in front of people, is where I'm going to sell what I do. Because there's a lot of people that have way better music and better production skills, and they really are behind a computer. They absolutely produce circles around me, but I think that like on stage is where I can shine more, and that's something that I truly wanted to and did take advantage of. I think
you've done quite a few different collaborations now. Do you have anything coming up that you can tell us about, or do you have any dream collaborations that haven't happened yet?
Definitely plenty of dream collaborations, man. I mean, everybody from Spirit Box to Bring Me the Horizon, and there's there's people that are outside of the space that I think would be insanely fun to work with. Just like to do something different, like I'd love to do something with like Run the Jewels or even like Millennium and stuff like that. Like people that are in the EDM space and outside of the space. I think that there's just a lot of room to make something creative and have a lot of fun, and that's definitely like kind of what me and Jason want to do too. It's why I always appreciated him, was because he was just such a different kind of artist. Luckily he lived in the same sort of metal space, but I think no matter what that guy did, he's just a master at his craft. So people like that just truly embody what music is about, I think is just something that I'm always interested in working with.
Anything coming up soon that you've got already in the works?
Stuff in the works as far as like just let's see, a lot of music, a lot of singles, a lot of album stuff. We teased last year. I have another album in the works right now, and hope to have that out. If not by the end of the year, it'll be early next year. So, and same with that.
I'm guessing you're somebody that keeps up to date with like all kinds of genres and all kinds of new music.
Yeah.
What's exciting you these days?
What's exciting me these days? Honestly, I think that it's really cool to see artists, back to kind of like the Bring Me the Horizon thing. Like, I really like seeing bands like that get experimental and really just like, rather than worrying about like, we have to every 3 years put out the perfect album and really think about what our time period is. They're just pumping shit out, and they're just like, let's just write and let's just put out what we can right now. And I think it's exciting to see people sort of like try new things like that, like seeing artists that just put out a pretty heavy, metalcore record, also released with MGK and Ed Sheeran and things like that. And like, well, a lot of the metal purists are like, this kind of is, not what we, stand for. It's really cool to see that. Like, it's really rad to see people, taking the risks in that way. Same with like A Day to Remember. They put out an album that was critically not, up to the standards of what a lot of people wanted, but it was nice to see them try new things and writing with people like John Bellion and things. And I just think that's exciting.
What about new stuff that you've just discovered, like brand new artists that maybe people haven't heard of that you think are doing something exciting?
Oh, sure. In the EDM world, there's quite a few people that are doing interesting and cool stuff. There's someone I had on tour, Lays, is really dope. Like, she's an incredible live performer, and she makes really sick dubstep. And she works with people like Vastiv is a guy that's really, really cool. I think, he's been around for a long time, but Ray Volpe has been putting out nothing but awesome music. A rhythm guy named Hole, he's really, really dope. And then outside of that, I'll just go through my playlist here because I literally have complete baby brain. New Under Oath record was sick. Heritage, he's another sick producer. Really love his stuff. Leotrix, another incredible producer that's come up in the last, year or two. And those kind of like the main guys. One of my best friends, Grabbits, just put out an album that is, in its complete own world. And, those are definitely the guys that I pay attention to right now.
Yeah. So it's an exciting time for music at the moment.
Absolutely. In the electronic space, it really is. Yeah.
If somebody had never heard of a Sullivan King record in their life, what song would you want them to start with?
The first record I would want them to listen to. I think, that's a great question. I think Someone Else, is a really good song. Otherwise, I'd say probably either Wake Up, Our Fire, both, of course, are Excision collaborations, or probably Loud is a great example of a song, that really does embody a little bit of everything that I love and I enjoy releasing and enjoy writing. I think those are probably my main ones. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it's a good mix as well. I think you should just start with all of those. I have to see any show fan. I'm just going to show you this.
Oh, that's sick. Hell yeah.
So not only is that like a signed frame picture, but I also took the picture.
Oh, you did the photo? That's so sick. Hell yeah.
But yeah, that's
fucking rad, man.
Try to place on my wall over there.
Love it. Love that, man.
Right. Well, I'm going to let you get back to being a dad, but
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much for spending some time chatting with me. You take care. Take care of your baby.
I definitely will.
All right. All the best. Cheers, man.